The 2020 version of the Graitec PowerPack for Advanced Steel has been released. So in this short video I'm just going to run through some of the new and improved features of the PowerPack. The PowerPack is Graitec's extension to Advanced Steel, which gives users more modelling tools, connections, templates, section sizes and data. So we'll crack on and have a look at what's new for the 2020 version. So to start with, we have created our own PowerPack connection vault. The PowerPack gives users 29 additional connections, so for the 2020 version we've added in our own connection vault, which makes it easier for users to navigate through the connections and to see what those connections can do for you. So the next new feature of the 2020 PowerPack is the export model to PDF, and it creates a 3D file, so you get a 3D PDF file. So not all clients have access to software that allows them to orbit and explore a 3D model, so you can now send your clients a 3D PDF alongside the typical plan and elevation drawings. So we'll just save this file onto my desktop. We'll create a customized size, so we'll say it's 500 by 400. Then if we open up the desktop, you'll see that there is now a 3D PDF file, and that's got my 3D model in. What we'll have to do in my version of Acrobat is trust a document. And now we have our 3D PDF, so we can rotate it just like we would in Advanced Steel, but we're just doing it. I have, as an example, created an M12 dome nut. So we're going to add this into the Special Parts Manager. So we'll open the Special Parts Manager. It's a nut. Now we could create our own producers. I'm just going to add them into non-standard, and we'll call this M12 dome. We then go and select the file. And we just need to set the thickness. So the thickness of this is 22 millimeters. We'll hit the save button. And now we'll go to my model where I'm going to use from the PowerPack connection vault. I'm going to use the threaded rod connection. I just need to be in a wireframe to find the center of my PFC. So there's my first member, there's my second element, my reference point is the midpoint, sorry, is the end point in here. That will then, if we'll go back to realistic, we'll then put the threaded rod macro in. Now at the moment these washers and nuts are created as plates, but I have a library entry set up for my M12 rod with just a special part nut and washer. So if we go and have a look at the first nut, we can see that it's done from a special part. but now you can see that through the Special Part Manager I've managed to add in the M12 dome nut. And that will put that on there, and then what I can do is I can say value number 1, the extension from the first element, I could set to -6, and that will then put the bar 6mm from the end of the nut. So with the Special Part Manager we can now control this kind of thing. The next new addition is the Asymmetric Pattern tool. So in previous versions of the PowerPack we've had a staggered connection, which allows you to create on any profile plate or grating, we can create a staggered pattern of bolts, anchors, holes or shear studs. For this version we have added an asymmetric pattern. So we can now create non-uniformly spaced patterns again of bolts, anchors, holes and shear studs. So if we have a quick, what we'll do is we'll just put some holes on one of our rafters just as an example. You might have some holes that you need for timber packing or something, so we can choose the item, choose our reference point or our origin point, and that will put now our asymmetric pattern of bolts, so of holes even, sorry. So what we can do is we can, let's say, offset it in the X, so it moves it 200 along, and we'll put it 40mm. So we've got they're now centered on the beam, and what we can say is, right, we want 2 spacings at 300, then we want a gap of 80, and then we want to go back to our 300 pattern. So you don't now need to create them using the Advanced Steel hole macro and then copy them and change the spacings. You can do it all with the Asymmetric Connection with the Advanced Steel PowerPack. So the last new feature of the 2020 PowerPack is the check single part and main part drawings. So when we're detailing it, it can be very difficult to keep track of what elements have been detailed and what elements haven't. So Graitec have added in these 2 new tools in the 2020 PowerPack, which will allow you to search, or the command will search the model for single parts or main parts depending on what you choose, and if they don't have a corresponding detail drawing in the document manager, then the tools will mark these items in the model. So if I click the main part button, it will search the model for any assemblies that haven't been detailed. And we can see that this little portal frame here at the front, there are no drawings associated with this frame at all, so nothing has been run for those. So very simple little tool, but can save a lot of time. That's all the new features of the PowerPack, but it's not only new features. We have improved on some of the previous tools that were in the PowerPack, so we'll cover these very quickly. So the tools that we have updated or improved upon are the platform cover and the floor cover. So again, these can be found in the new connection vault. So we've got the platform cover and the floor cover. Now what we can do with these, or what we've added into these, are bolts to start with. So we'll just give you a quick example of that. We'll cover this internal platform, so we'll spin ourselves around to the back. So we'll do a platform cover. So this tool allows me to cover this whole area based on my beam selection. I'll choose a point inside there. We want to split the covers based on beam. So the macro knows where these beams are, and it will put it'll obviously cover it for me. and split the items on the beams that I've chosen. So we can just say, right, we want to project 40 mil from the system line of the outside edges, but we want a 10 mil gap on the inside edges. And then what we can do is we can say, right, well, we want M12 countersunk bolts, and we can say we want one row of the bolts on all the edges of the items that we've chosen. Now we can make them the same for everything, or we can untick that and make them different for each cover or each edge of the cover. So we can go and control that kind of information, and then we can maybe just change this edge distance to 40 millimeters. So in the old versions of the macro you'd have to put the bolts on yourself. In the new version you can control it all from the macro. The other improvements to the floor and the platform covers, in the example I've just done, I had a completely closed platform. With the new 2020 versions of these tools, you now don't need a closed shape. So I can create a cover between these two items. And it will create the cover just based on the two beams, so it doesn't need to be a closed shape anymore. And we can now actually split the platform cover not just by beams like I've done on the example in here. We can actually split it based on lines now. So if I will just turn the endpoint on, we can choose a platform cover again. Going to choose the two beams. Choose a point inside the area. We want to split it based on points. So we can now pick the points. That was my error there. I clicked one point too many, so we'll just do that again. Click the two beams. Choose the point inside. We want to split the cover based on points. And that will now put the floor macro in based on the two beams, but it will actually split it based on the lines that we've drawn. So a couple of other improvements to the tools inside the PowerPack. We've added some features to the export model to ASYS command. So this allows you, the user, to export your entire model to an ASYS file or just a simple dumbed down DWG file. We now have the option in the 2020 version to export grids, and when you're exporting to a DWG file, we now have the option to choose what version of the AutoCAD file you can export to. We have that same option when we're exploding details. So when you're exploding drawings, the the Graitec PowerPack explode drawings allows you to explode the drawings, but it will also move the exploded details to the model space, which is what a lot of users want, and it will actually also convert the advanced steel dimensions into AutoCAD dimensions. There is a warning that says for any clipped elements the dimensions will be different to expected, because it can't, obviously, once you've converted it to an AutoCAD dimension, it doesn't take the clipping into consideration. But the 2020 version of the PowerPack, we can now choose what format of file we're exploding to. And the final upgrade is to the structure designer. So the structure designer was added into the PowerPack a few years ago. If I just start a new file, Structure Designer allows you to create an entire model with just one click of a button, and then everything is controlled through the dialog box. So this has been, like I said, in the PowerPack for a while. What we have added this year is the ability to actually now control and add any section you want into any of the parameters. So this allows you to create any structure you want with any section, any custom user sections, even timber. We can now add timber into this, so you could build an entire timber building. And with library entries, what we can do is we can have the entries saved, and we can just load them in. So if you're doing repeatable buildings, you can set up some library entries, and the Graitec Structure Designer will do the entire structure for you, including hot rolled, cold rolled, claddings, door openings, window openings. So for the 2020 version, we now have the ability to customize that macro to model with any section that we want. That's all what's new and what's been improved in the 2020 Advanced Steel PowerPack from Graitec. If you do have any questions or want to see any of the functions, please reach out to us.